behind closed doors. I'm a fool for your love.
Hi guys, another Geek123 here. So today's video I'm going to see what is the best MCU film according to critics, since most of them have been massive hits and it's the biggest movie universe. So let's get into it. I will do this by going to the most famous review websites that pop up for me in the UK when I search for a movie, which is IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. I'll work out the percentages of all three ratings, or just look at the ratings and I'll work out what it is to put them out of 300 in total, and you'll understand later on when I start getting into it. And finally, I will say which one out of the percentages that say which is the best one, and unfortunately I'll say which is the worst. So first is Iron Man from 2008, the origin for Tony Stark. IMDb gives it 7.9 out of 10, which is 79 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 93%, which is 93 out of 100. Then finally, Metacritic gives it 79%, which is 79 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 251 out of 300, which is not bad for their first movie. Next is The Incredible Hulk, the somewhat forgotten origin story of Bruce Banner. IMDb gives it 6.7 out of 10, which is 67 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 67%, which is again 67 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 61%, which is 61 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 195 out of 300. And this is quite a slump against the first one. Next is Iron Man 2, the second movie to get to Tony Stark's story. IMDb gives it a 7 out of 10, which is 70 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 74%, which gives it a 74 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 57%, which is 57 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 201 out of 300. Which again, not great, but you can see that they are getting progressively back on top. Next is Thor, the origin story to the God of Thunder. IMDb gives it a 7 out of 10, which is 70 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 77%, which is 77 out of 100. Finally Metacritic gives it 57%, which is 57 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 204 out of 300. Which once again, not as great, but we can see that they are slowly getting back up top. Next is Captain America the First Avenger, the origin story of a super soldier. IMDb gives it 6.9 out of 10, which is 69 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 80%, which is 80 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 66%, which is 66 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 215 out of 300, which is a great improvement of the franchise, but still needs some more improvement. Next is The Avengers, the movie that puts their iconic team together and creates the universe. IMDb gives it a 8.1 out of 10, which is 81 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 92%, which is 92 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 69%, which is 69 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 242 out of 300, which is a lot better and great for the franchise, showing they are getting back on their game. Next is Iron Man 3, the final solo film for the hero. IMDb gives it 72 out of 10, which is 72 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 79%, which is 79 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 62%, which is 62 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 213 out of 300, which is down in progression, but still a great outing for the universe. Next is Thor the Dark World, the second outing for Thor. IMDb gives it 6.9 out of 10, which is 69 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 66%, which is 66 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 54%, which is 54 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 189 out of 300, which is very bad and even worse than the Incredible Hulk, I think. Showing the universe could still be great, but they don't know what to do with this character specifically. Next is Captain America the Winter Soldier, a brilliant sequel showing Cap in the New World. IMDb gives it a 7.8 out of 10, which is 78 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 90%, which is 90 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 70%, which is 70 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 238 out of 300, getting it back on track to making the whole of its universe great again. Next is Guardians of the Galaxy, the surprising film introducing this unknown comic group. IMDb gives it 8.1 out of 10, which is 81 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 91%, which is 91 out of 100. And finally, Metacritic gives it 76%, which is 76 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 248 out of 300, which shows that unknown heroes can even be brilliant in this universe. Next is Avengers Age of Ultron, the movie showing the heroes teaming back up to fight against the evil AI. IMDb gives it 7.3 out of 10, which is 73 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 75%, which is 75 out of 100. Finally Metacritic gives it 66%, which is 66 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 214 out of 300, which isn't great, but quite disappointing compared to their first team up. Next is Ant-Man, the funny origin of Scott Lang as the hero. IMDb gives it a 7.3 out of 10, which is 73 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 83%, which is 83 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 64%, which is 64 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 220 out of 300, getting the universe back on track once again. Next is Captain America Civil War, splitting the Avengers up for their rights, and some people even call it Avengers 2.5. But in my opinion, guys, I don't, but that's what some people call it, as a joke. IMDb gives it 7.8 out of 10, which is 78 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 91%, which is 91 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 75%, which is 75 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 244 out of 300, which gets this universe back on their level, showing their heroes can be great and can team up or sort of break up, which is brilliant in a solo movie. Next is Doctor Strange, the origin of the character. IMDb gives it a 7.5 out of 10, which is 75 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 89%, which is 89 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 72%, which is 72 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 236 out of 300, which is again not bad for a new hero's origin story, which again makes the universe brilliant. Next is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which develops Star-Lord's character while having another great outing with the group. IMDb gives it 7.7 out of 10, which is 77 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 84%, which is 84 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 67%, which is 67 out of 100. This makes a total rating of 228 out of 300, which isn't brilliant for the second outing of the team, but still great for the franchise. Next is Spider-Man Homecoming, which is the first solo outing for this hero in the MCU. IMDb gives it 7.5 out of 10, which is 75 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 92%, which is 92 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 73%, which is 73 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 240 out of 300, which is another brilliant movie. Next is Thor Ragnarok, the crazy third movie for the character. IMDb gives it a 7.9 out of 10, which is 79 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 93%, which is 93 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 74%, which is 74 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 246 out of 300, which is a big improvement for the 4 solo movies, showing that they have worked out what to do with the character. Next is Black Panther, which is the first outing for this hero. IMDb gives it a 7.3 out of 10, which is 73 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 97%, which is 97 out of 100. Finally, Metacritic gives it 88%, which is 88 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 258 out of 300, which is...
What? What the fuck?
Next is Avengers Infinity War, a massive team up to try and defeat Thanos. IMDb gives it a 80.5 out of 10, which is 85 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 85%, which is 85 out of 100, and finally Metacritic gives it 68%, which is a 68 out of 100. This makes the total rating of 238 out of 300, which is surprising, but it's still great. Next is Ant-Man and the Wasp, the small movie giving us a break from their big event. IMDb gives it a 7.1 out of 10, which is 91 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 88%, which is 88 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 70%, which is 70 out of 100. This makes the final result of 229 out of 300, which is a bit disappointing, but it's still great, and it's probably just because Infinity War's big event. Next is Captain Marvel, the first movie for the new powerful female hero. IMDb gives it a 7 out of 10, which is 70 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 78%, which is 78 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 64%, which is 64 out of 100. This makes the final result of 212 out of 300, which is low compared to the recent movies, but the movie is controversial, and I do put that in mind, but it can affect a little bit of the results. Next is Avengers Endgame, the biggest team up yet in the MCU. IMDb gives it a 8.7 out of 10, which is 87 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 94%, which is 94 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 78%, which is 78 out of 100. This makes the final result of 259 out of 300, which is a very big improvement for the last 2 movies, showing how big and brilliant this franchise is. Finally is Spider-Man Far From Home, the second and biggest solo outing for this character. Some of the results might change in the future because I'm not sure if these are final, but at the minute IMDb gives it a 8 out of 10, which is 80 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 90%, which is 90 out of 100. And finally Metacritic gives it 69%, which is 69 out of 100. This makes the final result 239 out of 300, which is a great, making this franchise carry on with more success than ever for a solo character in my perspective, and especially after Endgame. So guys, in the ending results, the winner is Endgame, which I'm very happy with because I agree with that. In my opinion, it's one of the best. I'm not sure if it is the best to me movie of the MCU. Gotta give some honourable mentions here though. Black Panther and Iron Man were very close. Black Panther, I think from a cut video, I did say my personal opinion it is because of race, but it is quite a good movie, so I'm not going to blame it. And Iron Man, the first ever movie, was like third, I think that's what it was in total. And yeah, shows how good the intro to this character was. And unfortunately the loser was For the Dark World, which is a very hated on movie in the MCU, with the dishonourable mention for this, The Incredible Hulk. Both these movies were handled very awkwardly out of all the MCU movies, and it really shows that the rest of the movies can have been handled well. For like how many movies in MCU now, it just shows how big of the franchise is, that only like 2 or maybe 3, if there's another one out there, but I can't think of it at the minute. It's very controversial. I think one day I'm probably going to make a tier list, or maybe in the next video, I might make my own opinion on in the future. But if you want that, comment down below or tell me on my Discord or Twitter, which is always down below. My Twitter is anothergeek1231. And yeah, guys, that the Endgame, best movie MCU according critics, and loser, Dark World according critics. But before the video actually ends, some of these can be controversial, but I think Endgame and Dark World were right for their reviews, so give them a thing. But I think Captain Marvel, Infinity War, because there was some old critics that didn't like Infinity War because it was a new type of genre to this generation, and then I can't think of it on spot, but there's been a fair few that have been controversial, so that's why the ratings could be down a little bit. But again, winner loser, don't think they were that controversial to be winner and loser. So
Hold up.